It's race weekend time, Motorsport fans. Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface. Welcome back to the second episode today of this Motorsport Manager series, the Audi project. The first episode went up on Friday. It was a season preview where we went over everything that is happening. If you watch that video, you know what's going on. If you don't, go back and watch it. We are starting with the 2021 season. We have introduced Audi into Formula 1. We have also introduced the Prema team from Formula 2. They're racing all sorts of series, F3, F4. We're a Prema here, Prema. There we go, with Mick Schumacher and Robert Schwartzman as their drivers. Obviously, if you watched the last episode, you will know Mercedes have got Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in their team. Absolute beast of a driver lineup. But if we just go here, we have moved on to the race weekend. The little section between the races is not going to mean much in this game, so I'm not really going to be showing them, because what happens in between races is not really accurate of what's going on in the game, because before each race there's going to be a lot of database, well, not a lot of database changes, but going by what the AI has done with their cars, we're going to make all the parts equal to their other respective car in their team, just so both drivers of each team have all got equal cars. So like Alonso and Albon at Red Bull, they will both be driving pretty much the same car. Well, they will be driving the same car. There's no real two ways about it. They will be driving the same car, just to make things replicate real life, just to make sure the AI doesn't favour one driver too much over another, which can happen in this game because you can get vastly different cars within a team. You end up with like Alonso finishing first, Albon is in a Red Bull. That's pretty much useless coming down 14. It's just to make the AI a lot stronger, a little harder to beat. But as you can see, we've dropped down to 7th at the moment with the AI just upgrading their parts. They haven't actually built new parts. The only team that has built a new part since pre-season and going into the first race in Australia is McLaren, who built new brakes. I think it put their brakes up to 3rd overall. So you can see McLaren have got a pretty good braking system there. Overall, we have dropped down to 7th below Aston Martin. They've upgraded a little bit since. They do have a decent engine. They are using Mercedes power still, just like Racing Point, where McLaren as well have that Mercedes power to them. But as we can see, Mercedes are only 4th overall here, not the strongest of cars. And whilst upgrading, I think the Ferrari was the best overall car. When we went over the last video, Red Bull and Renault have jumped above them with what they've managed to improve on their parts that they've got in the car at the moment. So Red Bull looking particularly strong here. Red Bull as well with the drivers second best. So heading into this first race, it's looking like Red Bull at this early part of the season are looking really strong. But just before we dive in, I do want to change this livery, because in my testing that I've gone over, going through the game just to make sure everything works, this livery does look too similar to the Haas livery whilst we're on track. So I just want to change these colours around a bit. We've got the grey that we've got, and then I think this one I wanted blue for down the side, and then we need to make it white underneath, and then we're going to put this Audi red up on top. This one, whilst on track, I think it will look a lot more grey, because it seems to, this top part doesn't really replicate whilst we're out on track. So that's what we're going to go with. It's going to cost us a cool £500,000 just to respray the car. As you can see, we've got nearly 150 million in the bank. It seems a lot of money. All the teams do have a lot of money. We'll see what they spend it on. As we can see, we've got the Audi sponsorship there on the side of the car. Everyone else pretty much just standard fare there. As it goes with the car, we are building a front wing. It hasn't been built in the 17 days that we've skipped ahead from the start of the game to this point. I have made it so part build times are quite dramatic. As you can tell, the front wing, 17 days, probably 25 days to build and produce a new front wing. The engine, something like 35 days. Just so we can't push ahead everything. Just try to make it as hard as possible for myself to advance as well, because we don't want to skip to the front of the field too quickly. Obviously, we do have Vettel, who's one of the better drivers in the game. He's right up there at the top with Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc would be the main drivers at the moment. Obviously, Alonso is going to be up there as well. Where is Alonso in this list? Is it because we don't have Alonso scouted? We can't actually see everyone in that list, so do we not have Alonso scouted? And that is why, so let's get scouting. And Tsunoda is the reserve driver at Red Bull, a Red Bull Junior driver. We'll just go over who is in the reserve seats as well, because that is somewhere we didn't actually go through in the last episode. Alfa Romeo have Antonio Fuoco. Aston Martin have Nick de Vries making his return from Formula E. From the Mercedes team, he's obviously affiliated with Mercedes again. He's back there. George Russell, the other Mercedes affiliated driver. Audi, we have Stoffel Van Dorn waiting there for reserve. So if Pascal's not performing up to standard, there is the option to swap him with Stoffel Van Dorn at some point. If I think that might be the option, he is actually rated a little bit better, but I think we're not going to dive into the stats too much. We're going to leave all that a sort of mystery, so you don't know where people are at. But Wehrlein at the moment, he's a little bit better at like cornering, smoothness, overtaking, that sort of thing. Stoffel Van Dorn's probably, his consistency is a little bit better than Wehrlein's, so that is something to think about as we go on. Haas have Christian Lundgaard. Obviously Haas is in this game at the moment. They have moved away from Ferrari power. They do have a Renault engine in the car. They take on one of the Renault Academy drivers in their reserve seat. McLaren have Sergio Sette Camara, who I think he has just left the McLaren umbrella, but here we go. He's still with the McLaren Driver Academy. Mercedes have Max Futrell, one of the Mercedes Academy drivers. Enzo Fittipaldi is at Prema. Obviously, that's 3 drivers from the Ferrari Academy there at Prema. Basically a Ferrari feeder team. Red Bull have Tsunoda. Renault have Guanzu, another Renault Academy driver. Williams have Jack Aitken still. I think he's in the reserve seat for 2020. He is still here in 2021. AlphaTauri have Liam Lawson, one of the Red Bull Academy drivers. And Ferrari have Marcus Armstrong. So pretty strong. Hulkenberg. Is Hulkenberg going to be able to keep up the driving? The driver lineup is 4th overall for Ferrari. But that is pretty much all I want to get into before we head into this first race. Obviously, we're losing quite a bit of money per race. We're not going to invest in the HQ this season. We do have a semi-decent HQ. Everything is sort of legendary. There's not much to upgrade. All the teams do have pretty much an upgraded HQ just to make sure that everyone and the AI can keep developing, so we don't jump ahead of the midfields too quickly. But yeah, that is who we've got. We've got Pat Fry, Simon Rennie, former Red Bull, and then we've got Stella Rennie. Yeah, Red Bull, I think he used to work for. As you can see with the car, we are 7th, quite a way below average at the moment now. We're a bit closer to that. Our engine is 6 overall, below average though. Gearbox is a major concern for us. We do have a quite decent braking system, although it's only middle of the pack. The front wing needs some work, which is what we're concentrating on at the moment. Suspension pretty decent, and the rear wing not too bad, but below average. So we do have the first race weekend coming up in Sydney. I don't think it's set to rain. It's not. It's 38 laps. Looking forward to seeing what this livery is going to look like on track. I haven't got to it. We're just going to select this. There's not a lot of money available through sponsorship. Everything's just going to be, well, the AI finances are going to be managed by me, so the AI doesn't sort of stop developing at any point in the season. We don't want that to happen. So that is how everything's going to happen. And we need a few more supers of the option of the quickest. Yeah, we'll just go with a random setting. Both guys are content. So I'm going to hop into practice, and as usual, if you've watched the older series, we'll be back in a second for qualifying. Yeah, looking forward to qualifying, seeing who's quicker here in this first race of the season. Right, so we're about to head into qualifying here. We're going to take the super soft and the qualifying trim bonuses. It's just something I want to mention before we jump into qualifying. It's that the setup is not going to be a major thing. Just run, as you can see, we won't run one time with the race trim, one time with the qualifying trim. Depending on how close I get, that is going to be it. I can make one more adjustment before qualifying, and then we're locked down in Parc Ferme after that. So as we can see, we went the wrong way with the second setup there. So if we just switch back to that, take that way. We want to take that down another. That is pretty much where we're going to leave Vettel, hopefully. That is going to be a better setup than the 89% we had before. We're going to run with the super softs. Obviously, Wehrlein, we got a lot closer with him. 96 to 97. Quite a bit of variation between what they both want with the cars. and the super soft, obviously Verline not as smooth as Vettel with the tyres. He gets 2 laps less with each set of tyre. These mediums can do 25 to 27, where with Vettel he can get 27 to 29. Australia should be a one stop. We're going to run the super soft in this session. There's just one session of qualifying, which is how I like it with this game. I don't think the AI quite handles the 3-stage qualifying really well, and especially when they start on the reduced tyres and not the best race management from that point. It was added in by PlaySport after the fact, so it doesn't seem to quite work with the simulation. There is a little bit of an advantage you can take over the AI if you do that, especially if you keep some fresher tyres back whilst the track's fully gripped in that third session. This is how we're going to do it. Verline is out first of our 2 drivers. We're just going to skip ahead. Is he actually first out on track? It looks like he is. He's got, that is Valtteri Bottas behind him, whereas Vettel is here and he's got one of the McLarens in front. That's Carlos Sainz in front of him. So let's just see what we can get out of this. We were pretty handy during practice. I don't think that is going to transition through to the race. Hopefully Vettel can get inside the top 10. Verline, he was pretty close to Vettel in practice. Whether he can carry that through here, that is another question entirely. He's going to be setting the quickest first sector, obviously, because he's first out on track. And we'll see how quick he is to see if he immediately gets beaten by Bottas. So where is Bottas down this list? He's up there and immediately beaten out. 1/10 off the pace of the Alpha off the first one. Can Vettel get any closer? Who's quickest on track at the moment? That is Carlos Sainz at the moment. He's out in first place, so we're just going to keep an eye on Verline, see what sort of lap time he can get here. So where's Verline? He's on the last sector. He's 7/10 off the pace so far, which is either Sainz, no, Vettel. So 1:45.5. Bottas goes above him. Vettel has still got the quickest second sector here, quicker than Carlos Sainz. That is Vettel coming across. He moves into first ahead of the McLaren and the Alpha. Who have we got coming around now? Russell is the next quickest. Where can Russell get? Is Russell going to get first place here? Still Vettel in pole position at the moment, which is really handy. He's ahead of the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo. Russell isn't as quick in that third sector. Ricciardo, the 2 Renaults behind by 1/10 of a second here. Not the best of qualifying. Hamilton takes pole, and that is pretty much equal. Vettel has put in an absolutely outstanding lap on his first lap here. I don't think he has the racer trait. He doesn't have the qualifying trait, because you can have one or the other. But Verline a second, well, 9/10 off the pace of his teammate here, all the way in last. It's just a Prema behind him and 1 Prema in front of him, so that doesn't bode too well for Verline here. So we're just going to skip ahead. We've got Alonso and Albon, the 2 Red Bulls there in first and second on the front row of the grid at the moment. And are we seeing other cars come back out? So I think we're going to send out Verline at this point back out onto the track. We'll get Verline going again. Hopefully he can improve on this 23rd. That is a shocking qualifying session there. It's not negatively affecting him in qualifying here. It's a little bit. I don't know why that is, but Vettel here, really good. Russell, really good as well. 6th place in the Aston Martin. His teammates all the way down here in 21st. Bottas slipped all the way down as well. He was looking quite handy on his first lap. 2 Renaults can improve. Verstappen down in 9th, Hamilton in 4th at the moment. So quite a lot to play for here as we just await Verline to go around. We're just going to wait for the other top cars to come back out, and we'll send Vettel out at the same time. Or should we get Vettel back out on track now? Just speed up a little bit, and I think we're sort of at the point where we're going to see other cars coming out, so we're going to actually just let those clear out, and then we'll get Vettel out of the pits onto a fresh set of super soft. Verline is a lot quicker on this second lap. Obviously the track grip is a lot better than when he did his first lap here, and that's possibly why we saw that bed in a little bit, as the track grip gets a little bit better as time goes on. Verline 4/10 off this time, so he's going to improve here. He's got, I think that is one of the Premas in front of him. I don't think we can actually click on the Prema that's in front of him. We can't, can we? No, it's one of the Alphas. It's Antonio Giovinazzi in front of him. And Verline coming around 23rd at the moment. He moves up to 17th. Still not the best of laps. Still behind the 2 Williams of Magnussen and Latifi. Newgarden in the Haas doing pretty handily. He's improving on this lap as well. Where can Newgarden get up to here in this sort of American flag inspired livery from the Haas team? 3/10 off. It looks like a big improvement here for Newgarden. If he can keep this going, can he stay within 5/10? No, he drops. He drops in that last sector there, and we're just going to keep an eye on Vettel here. It's still the 2 Red Bulls on the front row of the grid. Vettel, come on, Hamilton's going quicker. Can Hamilton push these 2 Red Bulls? Leclerc is quicker and Alonso is going quicker here. Hamilton sets the quickest second sector of qualifying so far. Vettel doesn't look like he's going to challenge. He's a lot slower this lap, whereas we've got the 2... No, Ocon stayed down in 8th, whilst Ricciardo jumps up into 6th. Still behind our Audi of Sebastian Vettel. Russell has finished as well. Leclerc improves to 3rd. Hamilton improves to 2nd. Look at that. That is... I think that'll be 1/100th off the pace of Alonso there. So Alonso on pole position here. So we're just going to try speed up here there. Alonso coming round. Pole position for Alonso. And we've got rain to start the race. Rain wasn't forecast at all, but we've got a pretty rainy race here. Obviously, we are a little bit different to the vanilla game. There is a bigger crossover between the tyres, between dry tyres, intermediates and wets. This track, it is borderline for the dry tyres, but we're not going to take it. There is a section of the race around lap 8 where it's going to start drying off. It might pay us to get back onto some dry tyres at that point. But let's go super soft. The original plan for this race was going to be a 1-stopper. It is 38 laps. We should have been able to do that off a pair of super soft and... that's pushing it a bit. Super soft and a medium. But as it is, we're going to come out on the intermediates. They can do 25 laps. So it might not even be worth coming in. A pit stop here is worth about 23 seconds. 4 laps away might be quicker. 4 or 5 laps at and fresher tyres. Oh, it's going to be a tricky one. But yeah, we'll just go with the intermediates off both. We did get a lot closer with Vettel off that last setup. So we don't really want to push the tyres too much in the early going here. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's go down the grid for this first race of the season. On the front row of the grid, we've got Fernando Alonso in the Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton the Mercedes in 2nd, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari 3rd, Albon 4th in the Red Bull. A really strong qualifying session for the 2 Red Bull drivers. Nico Hülkenberg in the Ferrari is 5th, Max Verstappen 6th. 4/10 off the pace and 4/10 off the pace of his teammate there. Then we get our first qualifying with Vettel up there in 7th, Ricciardo 8th for the Renault, George Russell 9th in the Aston Martin. A really good qualifying session for him. Obviously, he's looking forward to being in that car after having a number of seasons in a slow Williams car. Esteban Ocon 10th. This Renault is pretty handy. I don't know what happened to them in qualifying. Then we have the first of McLaren's, Carlos Sainz 11th place, Sergio Perez in the Haas, Norris right behind his teammate in the McLaren 13th, Giovinazzi 14th, Magnussen in the Williams in 15th, not at the back of the grid for the Williams. An improvement. Maybe they wanted to see a little bit more improvement than that. But then we got Joseph Newgarden, his first qualifying session, 16th. Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, 17th. Schwartzman, that is pretty handy, 18th in that Prema, because Prema do have the worst car at the moment. Obviously, they do have a Ferrari engine though, and their engine is rated a little bit better than the other cars around them, so that's possibly why they're at the point they are. Pascal Wehrlein 19th. I'm pretty disappointed in that qualifying. We've got Yuri Vips in the AlphaTauri. Honda, Gasly behind him. Vips beating out just his teammate, his more experienced teammate. And Valtteri Bottas 22nd for the Alpha. That is not a good qualifying session at all. Then Lance Stroll a long way behind his teammate in the Aston Martin, and then bringing up the rear, Mick Schumacher 24th. So here we go, we're going to jump into this. This rain looks a lot heavier than it actually says up here on the water on track. So should we actually just keep a look at Vettel here, or should we just switch to the front of the grid? Shall we see what's happening? Hamilton has managed to get up. Alonso has had a terrible start. He's down into 4th, 5th, 6th. Is that Vettel getting ahead? That's Vettel ahead of Alonso, ahead of the... Oh, no. Running wide, Vettel, no. That's a mistake, and there he's holding up 2 Williams. That is 16th. Wehrlein gets ahead of him. That is a terrible start from Vettel. 17th now, just what we didn't want. Running wide. And Leclerc has jumped up a lot of action up at the front of the field. Verstappen into second, Hamilton third, Albon fourth, Hulkenberg fifth, whereas Alonso's dropped all the way down into ninth place. That is not good, and he's backing up on those tyres. What has happened? Why is he backing up on the tyres at this point in the race? Is the track still pretty hot? The track is still pretty hot, but I don't think we're going to get to a point where these tyres are going to be overheating. But Vettel currently stuck in 17th, and we're going to have to push here. Obviously, the rain around lap 19, it looks like the rain's going to get heavier a bit around lap 19, so we might be getting onto the wets around that time. So if we got some time to push on these intermediates here, we might try and push Vettel a little bit. Whereas Verline, 14th place, he's got one of the Aston Martins, that is George Russell, in front of him. Nope. Yep, just switch back. Try and remember the controls for the shortcuts. Yeah, there we go. Verline will turn up his engine a little bit as well. And let's give him some room to push as well. Pushing here, he's got George Russell in his sights. Can he get George Russell here? So come down this little bit of the straight, doesn't look like he's got the pace at all. So let's conserve a little bit with Verline. Maybe use the fuel rather instead. Whereas Vettel 17th, he's got a Williams of Kevin Magnussen in front of him. Obviously, they do have a Mercedes engine. It's possibly on a par with ours. The way they use the engine is better, but the way it's utilised in the Williams car puts his profitability about the same power level. But Vettel struggling here. He's got under pressure from Lance Stroll, and there Lance Stroll gets past Sebastian Vettel as well. Vettel sets his quickest lap of the race, which is obviously at this point he's going to just keep getting quicker as the rain is going to ease off a little. But we're going to have to stop these tyres from overheating too much. Totally what we not wanted at the start of this race is under pressure from the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly now. And Verline, 14th place. He's got the Alfa Romeo behind him. Have we got the run on George Russell here? Speed up the tiny little bit. Have we got a run on George Russell? Out and in, does he need to pit? The rain's going to start again. Should we take a risk here? Because this is a sort of level we could be on tyres, dry tyres. He's had such a horrible start. Let's just do it. Let's just see. We'll risk it. It's a very risky strategy. The rain's easing off a little bit. We'll just see what sort of tyre time it does. It's going to be handy for later on in the series, just to know what the levels are for dry versus wet track, where we need to be. And we're going to try and cool down a little bit here as well with Pascal Wehrlein. Obviously, he's not going to be able to get past George Russell here. It looks like we're stuck behind this Aston Martin as the rain sets in a little bit harder, but we're going to have that little period where we should be a little bit quicker than the other cars here, and whether we can get the jump. Obviously, we have had to make a pit stop. Whether all the other cars are going to go through to the wet weather, yeah, it looks like they're going to do that, isn't it? Have we just ruined Vettel's race? Is that a mistake straight away in this series? I was hoping for points from this first race, but he ran well wide. What is he doing in this first sector? He's way off the pace at the moment, obviously, but he's way off the pace because he's been into the pits. Let's just see what sort of lap time we can get here. Looks like Leclerc, they're not really steaming away. We're still pretty close here. Still pretty much anyone's race. Hulkenberg, though, is falling behind. Alonso hasn't been able to lift himself out of this 9th place either. These cars just pretty much following along from each other. And Vettel at the moment quickest first sector. So are we in a point where this super soft is actually working quite well on the dampness of this track? We go across, we do a 151.6, a second quicker, but only 0.3 quicker than Wehrlein. So we are on a good tyre here. Once we get to round about lap 8, we should start being a bit quicker than the other cars around. Whether it's enough time to make up. Obviously the rain has now stopped for quite the period up until about, it looks to be about lap 15, 14, somewhere around there, when the rain is going to start again and start getting heavier. It's only heavy for a little bit though. It's going to be interesting to see what the AI does here as we start to move along. If we just look at Wehrlein here, is following on from George Russell. Have we got room to push with these tyres? They are cooling down, but I think we're going to have to start conserving some fuel, but everyone else is still pushing. Maybe if we make this car a bit lighter and look to conserve fuel later in the race. Let's just see if we can get Russell here. We need to move up, and we do that straight away. Can we keep it down here as we move into the left-hander, back into the chicane here, and another one, and we stay ahead of George Russell here. So let's just actually turn things down and move back down there with Verline. Vettel, meanwhile, is he starting to catch back up? He is. We're about 2.5 seconds quicker than the car in front. 10 seconds to Nicholas Latifi, was 18th before these pits. And we're getting cars in for dry tyres here. Cars are coming in for dry tyres. Yeah, and I think we're going to have to get Verline in as well, aren't we? Super softs. We do want to get around to about lap 20. Get on to... still going to be a bit tricky. Around about lap 19, the soft tyres, the dry tyres will still work a little bit. From then, that period will be for the wets, and then it's back onto dries, it looks like, for the end of the race. So can we get through on super softs? 14 laps up to lap 19. It looks like we can, so we're going to get on the super softs with Pascal Verline here. On his next lap, he's going to push into the pits, although we don't want to use too much fuel with him. And Vettel is up into 11th here. That has worked out brilliantly for him. 11th place, obviously there's Alonso, yeah. But it does look like Vettel is going to get Verline here. Obviously our tyres are not as fresh as these cars behind, so we're going to have to do a little bit of defending. Keep an eye on Vettel here. Verline, meanwhile, is he dropping back? Is the car behind catching? Obviously the car behind is Leclerc, so he's going to be catching pretty rapidly. Verline, meanwhile, his pace is on a par. Is the pace there or thereabouts? Where is Verline going to come out of the pits here? Obviously Ocon and Alonso have gone for the longest stint on the inters as well. Everyone's going to dive into the pits. I think Vettel worked out on the double stacking is where it's happened for him, and Verline is going to get out into 12th, so he's actually moved up through the pit stops as well. And we don't want to push these super softs too much because we do want them to last. The car's pushing behind him, Norris is pushing, so we're just going to push a little bit. Hopefully we can keep that McLaren behind us, and Vettel is up into the points here. Worked out magnificently, but is Vettel going to be able to keep these tyres fresh up until we want to maybe inters or wet? It's still a question at the moment. But 10th place from Vettel there. We've still got the two Mercedes in second and third. Up front we've got Leclerc, he's still there in first place. Albon in fourth in the Red Bull. The other Red Bull of Alonso, disappointing start. He's still finding himself all the way back down. And we've got the two Renaults in sixth. Oh, that is Alonso, 8th. Manages to get past Esteban Ocon there. Just to be saying that he's got the yes, it is a McLaren of Carlos Sainz in front. And Verline's complaining that he can't get past Sergio Perez. Shall we burn a bit of rubber here? Give him a lap. We're heading into the chicane section. This is sort of where we got Russell last time, so we're going to sort of push. Can we put Sergio Perez in this house under pressure through the chicanes? Are we going to get a good run? Verline gets that good run, and we're just going to have to cool down. Is the weather cool enough? The weather is the weather is a little hot. Maybe have to go into conserve here. Alright, and fuel. No. On the straight. Let's keep the line ahead and then back down. That's more like it. And Vettel. So our two Audis close to each other. I keep wanting to say Porsche because Porsche was one of the teams I was considering doing instead of Audi. Just thought Audi fit a little bit better. Bugatti, basically all the cars under the Volkswagen umbrella, Lamborghini, were all ones I considered introducing, but we stuck with Audi. We've got a Renault in front of Sebastian Vettel. Will Vettel, higher rated driver than Ocon, but the Renault a much better car than ours. We can't really push too much with Vettel because we do want these tyres to get through to a point. We can always drop for the intermediates, but at that point we would be a step behind on pit stops, so we don't want to get in too early. Although Vettel is seemingly pretty handy here against this Renault. Let's give him a little bit of leeway. We can always put him in conserve if this doesn't work out. because there is a gap to Verline behind and to Perez. Verline's opening up about a 1 second gap here now. The car possibly lighter. We're going to have to do this, aren't we? Because we're not... These tyres aren't cooling down at all with Pascal Verline. It's just who's going to make the first jump when the rain starts again. I don't think the AI is going to jump because, as I said, the crossover on the tyres is quite high. Doesn't look like any of the front runners are going to come in, and it looks like we don't have the run on Pascal Verline. We don't have the run on Esteban Ocon at all with Sebastian Vettel here, so we're just going to cool off here. If we can pick up a point from this first race, especially with that big mistake. Sort of the risk we knew we were running, putting Sebastian Vettel in a car, and we were going to get a mistake at some point. I didn't expect it to be on the first lap of the first race. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But we're trying to cool down, but we're under a lot of pressure from Sergio Perez here. Tons of pressure from this Haas here. Go back to Vettel. He's just minding his own business at the moment, running a race, trying to get his fuel load back, and just waiting to see who jumps first on these pit stops. I don't think anyone's going to jump until the point where we switch to wets. Is when I think everyone's going to jump. That is my plan at the moment. Just try to cool down. It looks like Perez has gone back as well, so we're just going to switch back down to high. We're going to have to do quite a bit of conserving later on in the race. It might cost us a little bit with Verline, but I don't think we've got the pace to challenge any of these top cars. We're nowhere near the Ferraris, the Mercedes, the Red Bulls. We're not quite there with the McLarens yet. Definitely not there with the Renaults. So 10th place would be good if we can keep it. Oh, everyone's calling for intermediates at the moment. I don't think that is the right option at the moment. But let's see, is anyone else planning on coming to the pits? No, Leclerc's not coming into the pits. They're going to fly past. Doesn't look like anyone at all is going to come into the pits. Albon is behind his former teammate. No. Is that the way it was before, or did they stack and get that way? Is my mind playing tricks on me? No, yep. Well, Verstappen's second, behind Charles Leclerc here. Hamilton's third. Things pretty much staying the same there at the top of the order. We've got 10th place at the moment. So we're just waiting for that time. So let's just speed things up quite a bit here. Obviously that is the McLaren of Lando Norris managed to get past Sergio Perez, which is just what we didn't want. This McLaren is quicker than us. Is he going to be at home in on Pascal Verline here, heading up? We're running the same strategy at the moment. Maybe we've got a bit of a lighter car. Oh, we've got cars diving it. Nah, we can't pause. We can't. What am I doing? We shouldn't be pausing. Coming in for inters. Coming in for inters here. No, I'm going to stay out. We're going to try go another lap and just see what happens. I don't think the crossover point is quite yet. I think they're going to run. It's a bit of a risky from the top cars. The top 4 cars all came into the pits. I don't think the crossover point is quite yet. We should be able to run pretty parallel, although I don't think we're going to be able to get Vettel through to where the wet weather starts. So we're going to have to push in. We are going to have to take that same strategy here with Vettel. Verline up into 9th at the moment. Obviously everyone else is going to filter around, but Hamilton in traffic. Doesn't look like that pace is there at the moment. The rain is going to stop a little bit here, although these tyres, can they go another 3 laps? He's never going to do it. Down to 20%. Stay out one more lap because this track is drying off. We're just going to push a little bit through another lap here. Is it going to be the wrong tyre to go on though? It's going to be the problem. Looks like Hamilton's starting to speed up now a little bit. He's managed to get past Norris. It's a little bit of a risk. What should we do here? We don't want to lose this point that we've got, so we're just having to play it by ear, see what we can do, see if we can get through enough onto this wet tyre. We do want to get onto the wets. We've got 5 cars running. Magnussen in the Williams has come in. This rain is going to start getting heavier. These tyres are almost shot of Vettel's, although this rain is going to start getting heavier. Should we take the risk and get him? Sort of going to fall off the cliff in a minute. Yeah, we're churning through these tyres. Oh. How long is it going to be till this rain comes? I think it's a little bit too early yet. I don't want to pause too much, whereas Verline, we do have the strategy. Everyone's coming in for inters, it looks like. Because the rain's going to be there, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to go at inters with Vettel. Oh, is that Hamilton running wide? Hamilton just run wide. Way wide there. And these tyres of Vettel are falling off a cliff, although he's still pretty handy. He's losing a little bit of time as we go around here. He's going to start losing more and more time. Verline, we're going to keep out on track for another lap. Crossover point is just about coming. We don't want a double stack, and Verline goes flying through there. Vettel into the pits for this pair of intermediates, whereas Verline, I think we're going to go wet. I think that's what we're going to do. No, everyone else is on inters, so we're losing time here. Didn't want to double stack. We'd had Vettel lined up for that pit stop since he was in front. We're going to take a risk here. We're going to go. We've heated up these tyres too much, but I don't care because we're pushing into the pits. Vettel, meanwhile. So if we do that, this wet weather, that crossover where it starts to come back down, we can get onto a pair of dry tyres. We're going to run a little bit of a different strategy. It's all about learning the tyre crossovers at this early point of the season, see what we can do. Obviously it's a lot different to what the AI is doing, which I don't really like doing. But Vettel is still ahead of Perez. We're still in the same sort of boat as we were. And we've got Verline onto these wet tyres now. He's going to come out behind. Oh, and he's out behind the Williams of Kevin Magnussen. So what sort of time can we put together here? Obviously we can really push on these tyres because we're not actually going to be on them that long. We're going to be on them for maybe 4 or 5 laps before we have to change. Doesn't look like we're quicker at the moment, although we should be. Over the next couple of laps we should be a lot quicker. Is it going to be quick enough to pick up 5 seconds? Who knows? But we've lost out here with Vettel, haven't we? We're down into 12th. Norris and Russell have made the jump. Everyone else pretty much the same. Alonso has moved himself back up the order a little bit into 6th place. Leclerc still out in front. Verstappen still chasing him down. This Mercedes though doesn't look to have the pace of the Ferrari this season, although they are doing quite well to be ahead of the Red Bulls. But the Ferraris and Renault's a little bit disappointing. 25, 24 and 27 points off the pace respectively here. But we do have Verline, so let's get him pushing, and we do need to start thinking about conserving some fuel as well. So here we go. Verline is going to start having the advantage here over these cars that are out on track. He's got Vettel in front of him, so should we just allow him through? Offer no resistance to that takeover. I know he's on a different tyre, he'll probably get him back later in the race. Vettel, don't complain. We're going to push a little bit with Vettel as well, make sure he can stay ahead here. We should have maybe made that jump to the inters a little bit. I was trying to get him through to be on the same strategy as Verline for the wets, just to see how that would work. But this rain is starting to ease off, so we're not going to get George Russell here. And we're going to have to start thinking about getting onto a drier tyre at some point, as soon as we start seeing. Let's just cool down very briefly. I'm running a little bit too hot there. Is Vettel coming back here? 1.2. Are we still saying about the same, even though we're on back up? We cool down and then we push again. It's just all about deciding when we're going to get off this wet tyre. Obviously, I think it's going to have to be now that we get off this wet tyre. It's not going to work out now. We're going to have to stay on. It's still just about the point where the wet is. No, the wet's not working at all, is it? We say that the wet is not working at all. Vettel gets him back. So we do have 15 laps remaining. Will Pascal Verline be able to get a super soft through to the end of the race? That is a little bit risky. We're going to go soft, so we're going to have to make sure we can get him through to the end of the race. So Verline is going to dive in onto a pair of softs now. Vettel up into 12th place. we can start thinking of getting off this intermediate at any point now, so we don't really have to worry about that. And we do want to get this through, so just push a little bit here with Verline. He's out in last place at the moment. Obviously everyone else does have to make a pit stop. This rain is going to be stopping sort of from any point around the next. Once we get off this bar, the bar after that is when we can sort of think about going back onto a dry tyre without actually losing much pace. Although we see Verline catching up. No, is he staying equal with Bottas here? No, we're losing a little bit of time to Valtteri Bottas. He's sort of in that range for the crossover, but it's just something I'm going to have to learn again, the crossovers. It's not the same crossover rate as the base game. I did say it, but it's not always perfect. We're just going to have to learn when that crossover point is. It is a lot higher than the vanilla game. But we're losing quite a Verline's losing quite a bit of time here. So he's going to sort of be the barometer for realising where we want to get Vettel off this intermediate time. Once we sort of see Pascal Verline keep these laps the same, we're going to move on to the dry tyre, one of the dry tyre compounds, and we're just pushing this tyre. We're just shredding this tyre, aren't we? I don't really want to back up on this tyre, because if we start doing that we might lose some time. We're losing time as it is because we're running way too hot, but because we're coming in, aren't we? We're coming in. We're starting to hold equal here. And actually Verline is catching back up. So we can run on super softs to the end of the race. We're going to get Vettel in this lap. Is anyone else thinking about coming in? Is Leclerc coming in? No, the AI is staying out another lap here. So we're going to get Vettel into the pits. We've got room to push. Not much room with the fuel, although we've still got room for another couple of laps in high mode here. So we're going to push here. We come into the pits. I think we're in 12th place once we came into the pits. We're going to get back out. Are we back out in traffic? A little bit of traffic. Not ideal, but everyone else is going to be jumping into the pits sometime soon. So we're at 60 seconds. Oh, it's going to be close, isn't it? Are we quicker than the cars in front now? Have we made the jump? Obviously, we want to get Russell. Norris for that top 10. He's a little bit out of reach, but we need to get past this Alfa and Bottas. Bottas not having a good day at the office at all in the Alfa Romeo. And we are a lot quicker here. We're going to shred through these tyres out. We're going like this, but we've got to make up the positions here. We've got to get the jump. Obviously, a lot of cars double stacking into the pits. And where do we come? 12th? 12th. We're still behind Russell. Still behind Russell. We're going to cool down here. And we've got Verline running way too hot here, so we're concentrating. Hold on, Sebastian Vettel. It doesn't look like we're going to get our first points of the season in this first race. Obviously, the AI level is set quite high as well, which means even if we had an equal car, they would theoretically be a couple of tenths quicker than us anyway. But here we go. Vettel, is he closing in? 3 seconds. Looks like Norris went onto a used pair of super softs. Russell is on a slower tyre. If we just keep this going, Vettel sets the quickest lap of the race with a 1:48.2. Obviously everyone else is on their first laps on their dry compound tyre, so we're going to see him lose that though. And there is no points. There's no points for fastest lap. It's 2 points if you do it anywhere on the thing. Just to avoid the temptation of myself trying to nick a fastest lap if we're like running last or outside the points as we are now. Not something I really want to be doing. Verstappen went onto a pair of mediums, obviously. He's given up on the race win. Has he given up second position to Hamilton? Hamilton running pretty quick here. That a second difference between those two tyres as it is at the moment. Have Mercedes handed second place to Hamilton here? Is that favouritism? Verstappen in his first season. Hamilton obviously been with Mercedes a long time now. It's going to be interesting to see how that finishes up. Alonso's managed to get himself back into 5th, although he's 8 seconds behind his teammate. Obviously that's not going to be caught up. He's got Hulkenberg for pressure behind him, although I don't think that's going to be caught. Ricciardo's still in 7th. Carlos Sainz is still in 8th place in the McLaren. Ocon is 9th in the Renault. Norris 10th in the McLaren. Russell 11th in the Aston Martin. And then we've got Vettel, Perez in the Haas, Magnussen in the Williams, Giovinazzi in the Alfa, Gasly in the AlphaTauri, Schwartzman, Vit's running last, and Bottas has got ahead of the other AlphaTauri. And it doesn't look like we're still running pretty quick here. 147. We are quicker than Russell over certain parts, and Russell is going through this soft tyre pretty quickly. He's not going through it, he's going to be able to get to the end of the race, but he's pushing quite a lot, whereas we're not pushing at all. We're just trying to conserve this tyre for a little bit. We're going to make our push towards the end of the race, although we're going to sort of need to do it now, aren't we? Although we do have to conserve our fuel from this point forward as well. We've let Verline. Ignoring Verline, aren't we? My mistake. My mistake. It's going to take a little while to get back into this game, especially whilst talking. It's a little bit hard to concentrate on what you're doing when you try to talk as well through it. It's a little bit harder to concentrate, so let's just try and get these back up to speed here. We're down here. Right, we're going to push a little bit with Vettel, obviously. We're going to have to go into backup mode, well, low mode at some point, to try and recover this fuel. It doesn't look like that strategy is going to work. What we want to do is get ahead of Russell and then see if we can hold that position whilst backing up a little bit. Obviously, there's not much difference between 12th and 11th. It's all for pride. I don't think we're going to be able to catch Lando at all. Although he's shredding. He's shredding pretty quickly through this. He's going to be able to get to the end of the race, obviously. I think they put him on a used pair of super soft tyres. Yes, Lando. Unless something catastrophic happens here. Looks like that's going to be what happens. 1.5 seconds. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to make this up at all. And we're just going to hold off here with Pascal Wehrlein. He's pretty much got all the way back. We're just going to hold off and just keep him there till the end of the race. Vettel, meanwhile, no, he's overheating. We're going to go in low mode. We're just going to conserve here whilst we speed things up. Vettel does a quick lap. His personal best of a 1:47.1. 3/10. We're not going to be able to push and hold off here. We do have to recover the fuel. Let's just see what we can do as we start to cool down here. We start to lose pace all there. We say that and then we suddenly get a lot closer to Russell. There's not much we can do about the fuel at the moment. We've used that fuel to sort of catch up with him. Is it going to be feasible? Are we going to be able to catch George Russell here? No, we're starting to back off a little bit here. We overheat the tyres, try to chase him down. Going to get in low mode because otherwise we're going to run out of fuel before the end of the race if we don't do this. Verline, meanwhile, coming under pressure from Pierre Gasly here a little bit as well as they go towards the end of the race. We do have room to push in high mode for a little bit as well with Verline, so let's just keep it here. I don't think there's much point watching Vettel. Don't have the fuel to do that. We might even run out of fuel with Sebastian Vettel. My race management seems to have gone out of the window. It's been a while since I've properly played the game. I've been building the database for this for a long time. A little bit of testing, although I wasn't really doing much with the game, just watching the cars go around and seeing what happened to the cars, just leaving everything well alone. We're backing up now. We should just be able to do it. We're on lap 37. There's about 2.5 laps left for Vettel, so we are going to be able to recover this fuel. Obviously, we don't have the pace to keep pace with George Russell here. Lando Norris, though, he might lose out here. 24%. I don't think he is actually going to be able to make it towards the end of the race. That tyre is going to drop off a cliff. So, 11th place is on the cards again here. If we can just keep up a little bit. And we'll just push Verline again. Just keep him ahead here, warm those tyres up a little bit more once again. Just watching Norris at some point, he's going to start slowing down. Although he's quicker this lap than his last lap. Are we on the last lap now? Yep, we are, aren't we? Final lap. His tyres are dropping off the cliff. 4 seconds, it's not enough for Vettel to catch him though, although Russell could get Aston Martin their first point of the season here. Or are McLaren going to score double? think we've just got enough fuel to finish the race with Vettel as well. So here we go. So what should we watch? Leclerc has finished. Doesn't look like there's much else other than whether Norris can stay ahead of Russell here to keep an eye on. And there we go. Those tyres dropped off a cliff. Can we push right at the end here? Put it into medium. No, it's a bit close to the finish line. Russell does get that point for Aston Martin. Norris finishes 11th. Vettel 12th. And we'll see Pascal Wehrlein come across the line in 16th place. Not a good race for the first. Well, it is, because it's where we should be expecting to be. And with the AI level quite high. Oh, it's going to be a bit harder to score points than I thought. I thought maybe Vettel would push us up a little bit. But obviously, him running wide, we had that just getting used to the wet weather as well. Try to find the crossover points in this game. Maybe should have followed the AI, but what's the fun in following the AI, eh? So let's just continue here. Should be no problems with the cars at any point in the season. So here we go. We've got Charles Leclerc first place. It's two Mercedes of Max and Lewis second and third. Albon in the Red Bull finishes ahead of Fernando Alonso. Obviously that terrible start cost him dearly in the early going. Hülkenberg in the Ferrari, Ricciardo in the Renault, Carlos Sainz in the McLaren, and then Ocon in the Renault and Russell in the Aston Martin round out the top 10 for points. What did Bottas do in the end? 23rd in that Alpha. His teammate 15th. He must have had a mistake at some point. Vips in the Toro Rosso, is it anymore? The Alpha Tauri in 24th. A little bit better from the Williams team, 14th and 20th. Obviously at the back of the grid for a long time. And there we see the confirmation of the point standings at the moment. Scuderia Ferrari Michelino, 33 points in first place. What the hell was that? What the hell was that voice? Second, Mercedes, 33 points. Oh, joint first. Didn't even notice that. Red Bull, 22 points in third. Renault, fourth with 8 points. McLaren, fifth with 4 points. And then we've got the Aston Martin in sixth with 1 point. And then 6 teams not scoring points, including ourselves. So, there we go. We came 7th overall. Expected 8th. So, 1 place higher. A little bit of a morale loss for Sebastian Vettel. Obviously not happy with finishing 12th. Maybe regretting his decision to jump to Audi. Obviously, how strong points going to come? 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons down the line. Or hopefully, by the 3rd season, we're pushing right at the front. I don't think we're going to win the title for quite a while. Wehrlein 16th compared to a 12th. It's okay. We've got a new unlock with the mechanic already, though. Light-footed on the super soft tyres, which might come in handy for him. Might do, because he's not as smooth as Sebastian Vettel, so it might come in handy. We're just gonna have to wait and see. And as it is, losing 1.2 million per race, we're just gonna hold on to everything, and we're just gonna skip past F2 and F3. I haven't finished F2 and F3, so it doesn't make much sense. I think Kimi Räikkönen is currently driving in Formula 2 or Formula 3 at the moment, just so he's there, and I can move him to a team eventually if I decide to put him back in a team next season. But as it is, yeah, not too bad of a first race. Getting used to the rain again. Getting used to concentrating on 2 drivers as I'm talking. You sort of lose track of a driver when you're talking. It's a bit hard to micromanage 2 drivers whilst you're talking. But I can't complain about 12th and 16th. I'm pretty happy with that. We've got the Dubai Grand Prix coming up next. Hopefully that might suit our car a little bit more. No, of engine, brakes, rear wing. Engine, brakes, rear wing. Brakes, rear wing. Might be a little bit of a difficult track for us once again, but that is it. First race of this 17 race season over and done with. Hope everyone enjoyed. Good to be back doing some Formula 1. Obviously Formula 1, and that's my printer turning on again, just like in the last episode. I think it turned on. But yeah, good to be back doing some F1. Obviously we've got an extended break in the real Formula 1 season. Hopefully everyone's keeping safe. Hopefully everyone's alright. But until next time, I'll see you for the next race in Dubai. But until then, goodbye.